And in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And welcome back to another Integrated Interventions podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Dundas. I'm the Director of Education and excited today to have a guest who's new to the program, Matt Grogan. Welcome.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. You're a personal trainer that has lived in North Idaho for over a decade. How did you get your start in fitness?
I got my start in fitness probably at a young age, running track and field. That was kind of the origin. Growing up, being into athletics and competition, and then it just progressed into more and more interest in athletics and more competition, I guess. And then worked at a GNC supplement store for about 5 years. I was like 5.5 years. And then after that, met some people and got into personal training. But yeah, it started with kind of a childhood like career in track and field, and then just evolved.
Well, and that will set up some further conversation that we have with you being an athlete and doing basically extreme marathons.
Yeah.
Or
kind of.
Or ultra marathons, rather.
Yeah. So ultra marathon is anything over marathon distance. Yeah. I've started dabbling in like some 50Ks, and 2 weeks ago I ran 100K. And so, yeah, getting into that 30 to 60 mile distance.
It just makes me tired just thinking about it.
I'm still tired from the one 2 weeks ago.
But yeah, because that is another level of commitment. Now, let's bring this kind of back to fitness. What about fitness was interesting to you? I know you mentioned being an athlete and being a track athlete, but what specifically led you to also wanting to help other people? Because I know you have a heart for that.
Yeah, I think probably I like to move just physically. And if I'm not moving, like there's a problem. And so I'm constantly moving. And so personal training and working in a gym and doing fitness is a way that I can keep moving. And then, with personal training, it's like, okay, how can I help other people move and, help them with their fitness goals and, stay involved in athletics and human movement. And then, I get to help other people as well. And it's a challenge as well. So.
Well, there's an aspect too, I think, of being able to get to know people and building relationships. And in Integrated Interventions, working with our students, we're a relationship-based program. You've had the opportunity to work with a few of our students. Talk about that approach and working with students and that, I guess, the connection between fitness and mental health.
Yeah, so you definitely get, as a trainer, if you do it long enough and if you're busy enough, you get exposed to a lot of different types of people. And you get sometimes some challenging clients that could be physically, maybe they have like unique limitations or restrictions. Sometimes it can be their level of commitment. So yeah, working with some of the students from Integrated Interventions is definitely a challenge. Just from like a commitment standpoint, it's like, how do I figure out how to get someone motivated and excited about health and fitness and coming to the gym? So, trying to find out kind of what triggers them and what triggers their interest and what gets them excited about, putting in the work and being consistent with it.
Well, and cultivating relationships and cultivating interest for maybe something that they don't want to do per se. Because for some, I feel like, embracing fitness may not be something that has been a part of their lives. And so here you are coming in to introduce them to a world that may be unfamiliar, or maybe they might have some anxieties around.
Yeah, I think initially they think they don't want to do it. But then if you're creative enough, you can figure out a way to get them excited to where you can make it fun, to where maybe they're doing something and the way they're moving and the way they're feeling during the workout or maybe after the workout starts to spark their interest and gets them excited about it. I mean, if you're just doing the plain Jane boring, like, oh, let's do bicep curls or let's stand around and do this, like, it's not going to be very exciting. But if you make it fun and you try to bring some energy, oftentimes you can get, most people kind of ramped up on it,
What role has mentorship played in your fitness experience as, being a personal trainer, but also, you're coaching and mentoring with the people that you're working with? And how does that all play a part of what you do?
Yeah, I think over the years, like I said, I started with track and field and I had some really good coaches. And in a way they're a coach, they're also a mentor, and you're learning disciplines and you're learning also simultaneously different skills, that tie into athletics and human movement, and you're learning different training styles as well. And then with, working at GNC, I had a really good, like the owner that I worked for, he was super knowledgeable with health and nutrition and supplementation and customer service and stuff. So over the years, just being exposed to like these different people in the health and fitness field, and then exposing myself also to different types of training and different sports, and being like really into it and just kind of engulfing myself into it. You learn a lot of different training approaches and like training styles. And then you also you learn a lot of different knowledge that's all tied into health and fitness.
It can be a fine line of, that motivation to pushing someone over the edge, so to speak. And I think, good coaches know that of that point. What were some of the things that you learned from coaches or if you could pick a few valuable things that you learned that you were able to bring to your personal training business? What were those from coaches that maybe been imparted to you?
I think for myself, like hitting my threshold so many times, like with my training and with my workouts, and reaching that threshold. And then also just with years of experience and working with different people, being able to take my client, no matter, what they have going on, they could have different limitations, restrictions, or different abilities, and being able to take those people to their threshold. Like that's kind of my goal, is I want to take someone to their limit and to their threshold, but also do it safely, without an injury, and maybe challenge them in ways physically, get them to do things that it's like they wouldn't even consider doing, like certain exercises or certain things, right? So I guess that kind of answers your question. Kind of got off track maybe.
Well, no, it does answer it, because would you consider yourself to be an endurance athlete?
Yeah, there's like the hybrid athlete thing nowadays, where you're like involved in different sports, and that's what I like doing. I like kind of diversifying my fitness. So I like, I like the endurance side of it, but I also like the strength and powerlifting, but then being able to go do, say if I want to go play pickleball, or if I want to go play golf, or if I want to go, I guess like climb a mountain or play different sports, basketball or swimming, whatever it is. Like I want to train my body to where it's diverse, to where I can do all these different activities effectively, and my body also will be able to hold up to it. So
it also sounds like being well-rounded as an athlete, it allows you to meet a lot of people where they're at, and really diverse client interests as well.
You can find like a niche, and you can target like one specific population. I like being able to train people from like different walks of life, whether it's like a senior that just had a hip replacement, or maybe they had like a knee surgery, or they have back problems, or if it's like a young athlete, looking to progress, or if it's your kind of middle-aged person that just needs to get moving and they're not feeling good mentally and they want to start working out, and kind of tailor the program to whoever.
What role do you believe, or what role does exercise play in promoting mental well-being and positive experiences in regard to fitness?
I think that I always kind of make this like little crack where, well, it's not really a crack. Like everyone should work out. And I'm always like, I don't know how people don't work out on a regular basis, because that personally, I feel much better. I feel really good when I'm working out consistently. And I think a lot of people, like until they like buy into it, or until they like experience it, they don't realize like how good they feel just on a daily basis, sleeping better, and maybe their mood, their perspective just on different situations throughout the day.
Well, and movement doesn't have to be overwhelming. I think for some, they think, I have to do a full gym workout in order to have that movement. But there are a lot of opportunities where people can become physically fit in ways that they may not expect. What are some of those ways that maybe the average person that has not been to a gym, how can they participate in some daily things that could help them grow in those areas?
Yeah, I think something as simple as just going out for a walk, and just getting outside and getting some fresh air, or maybe finding a local trail and literally just going for like a 20 to 30 minute walk outside, getting some sun exposure. We get so stuck in like a sedentary position. Like, we're sitting down right now is what most people are doing all day long. And I think like at the core of like, the human species, it's like we're intended to be outside and like moving about. We're not intended to be in the seated position all day. So I think naturally our minds and like our bodies crave to be moving, but we've kind of gotten away from that, like as a society. Any physical activity, no matter what it is, pickleball, golf, hiking, biking, walking the dog, whatever you can do to get moving.
Yeah, pickleball for me is one of those fun sports. Like when I think back to PE games that I was introduced to, as a kid, that was the one that I never expected to take off to the level to where I never thought I would see professional pickleball players. Because I know in Spokane, there was a guy who was ranked in the top 10 for a long time. And it's cool to see recreational sports like that kind of take a life on its own. I bet it's neat for you as well to be able to participate in those different sports and to really meet your clients where they're at.
Yeah, over time, like as I'm getting older, I'm like, versus just, training, like I'm going to train for this race. I just want to get out and move. Like, so yeah, pickleball is fun. Maybe going to the range, hitting golf balls, going for a hike and stopping and taking some pictures, taking my dog for a walk. I kind of value any kind of movement, but yeah. And then as far as my clients, I try to like support whatever they want to do. So if it's like they want to golf, I'm not going to like push them into doing some crazy like a 10K or a half marathon. Like you got to kind of feel out your clients, and it's like I'm going to push them as far as I can and try and get them to do things that maybe they wouldn't do, but there's also like a limit,
What kind of dog do you have?
I have a collie lab. She's a problem child.
Well, also good for hikes though.
Oh yeah.
Because with labs, especially with border collies and labs, and I have a black lab, he has a bit of a mischievous side to him, especially when he's not exercising regularly.
Yeah. So today it's like, it's such a nice day, and I'm not working out today. I'm like, I'm going to take a rest day. So, but I just wanted to take advantage of the weather, and having a dog is great. Cause I'm like, I'm going to go to the park, and literally just took my chair, just sat outside and just took in the sun. My dog gets to go sniff around. I got some fresh air, and like, again, there's like health benefits to just literally being outside. And so, I feel good. I got some sun exposure, get some vitamin D, and my dog is healthy. She's happy. She got to go sniff around. So yeah, just making that time to get outside.
And it is important too to carve out time for ourselves and to be able to take advantage of the beautiful weather, because now we're getting to a point as spring is more established, working our way towards summer. Well, I'm always really cautious to say that winter's gone completely, because until you've experienced snow in June,
Yeah.
I mean, it's never really fully gone. Living in North Idaho is its own adventure on a seasonal level. But what are some of the things that you like to do outside of training? I know you had mentioned, endurance running and running marathons that most humans don't participate in. What are some other things that you like to do?
But I'll be honest, most of my free time, my recreation does consist of something physical. But I like to read a little bit, and I'll do, I'll listen to a couple podcasts, but my work is definitely a big part of my life. So,
well, it sounds like it's a labor of love. Like it's something that you enjoy doing. I think anytime someone can find a career field that is something that they enjoy, it doesn't feel like work. And it sounds like it's that way for you.
Yeah, it is. I always say, like, if you're not like slightly stressed out, then you're not trying hard enough, So like, it's definitely challenging, and I think if it's like easy and if it's like too much fun, then you're not really putting forth like full effort on it. So it's definitely fun, it's rewarding, but it's challenging too. So,
do you get nerves when you do races or any like competitive activities?
Yeah, I was just talking to one of my clients before I came here about, she was like, she just did a 5K, and I was like, oh, you should try a 10K. And the reason I was telling her to do the 10K or advising her to do the 10K instead is so she does something that she's like unsure about it. Or she's like, I'm not really sure if I'm ready for that, because she really loved doing the 5K. I'm like, you should do something that you're unsure that you can finish, something that you're uncomfortable about. So for me, the only time I really get nervous is if maybe I have a time goal, like a specific time goal, or if I'm doing something that is outside my wheelhouse that I haven't done before, and something that I'm unsure of the outcome. And so, yeah, I do get a little nervous sometimes, but generally not.
But allows for a lot of opportunities for practice and to build confidence, because it takes time, I think, when you're doing something new to be able to have that level of confidence to be successful. How do you impart that to your clients? Because there might be, maybe there's an exercise they've never done, or they're participating in something they've never done. So maybe there might be some natural anxieties to that. What are some of the strategies that you utilize to help them feel more comfortable working towards something that might seem daunting or overwhelming to them?
Yeah, I think being able to scale, like whatever training style you're going to use with a client, there's different like levels of like each exercise, or different levels of like every type of training. So being able to like work with somebody for a short amount of time, and then knowing what they're capable of physically, and then being able to scale different exercises for that person. Because if you have them do something like, you might trial and error, and you might have somebody try something and it doesn't go well. Well, then you just have to be able to, scale it back. But yeah, knowing how to scale things will give people confidence, because then it's like, I can have somebody do something challenging, but it's not so challenging to where they can't like complete the task.
Well, and to be able to get wins, like for the student population that we work with, there are times where they haven't got a lot of wins in their life. And so being able to experience new things, but also have success in them, really helps them build their confidence that can be translated to other things. Do you find that in the work that you do, that someone comes into something that they were unsure about, and then they start building that confidence, and then that confidence extends to other areas of their life?
Yeah, like I have a client right now. She technically shouldn't even be able to walk. She was born with some like a birth defect, and she had a stroke at birth. And we walked a marathon last year. So we got a group together, and we walked a marathon, but she's done probably like 30 or 40 or 50. I don't even know how many like half marathons she's done, but she walks like 40 plus miles a week, and she's disabled. So she's like a challenged athlete, but I got her into walking, and she's just kind of taken it to the next level. And now she does all these events, and she registers for a bunch of races. Another quick story too is a gentleman that I worked with who was, he was a good track athlete in his like late teens, or I guess in like his younger years. And then he was gassed in like a dental accident. And so he went into a coma, and he woke up blind and with a speech impediment. So he had a tiny bit of peripheral vision on his left side. So he came into the gym, and he was challenging to work with because he was blind. And so I had to figure out ways to train this guy. And we were successful. We did actually the handicap hangover, which is an annual fun run in Coeur d'Alene. It's a 5-mile run. And so we used a tether, and he ran next to me, and like we made the front page of the paper. It was really cool. But yeah, got him really excited about training, and got him involved in something competitive. And like you said, he was winning at something. And maybe he went from a state of being like, maybe depressed or mentally down on himself for the condition that he had, to now he was all ramped up, and he was doing something competitive and something fun. So
yeah. Do you gain inspiration from the clients you work with? Because that's a very inspirational story that you referenced. But I could imagine as well, being able to see people overcome obstacles is motivating for not only for the client, but I think also for you, because you're able to see the progress that's made at measurable progress.
Yeah. I just told one of my clients the other day, I was like, the gal that's disabled, she was talking about how she was like, oh, I was second to last in the race. She was kind of like down on herself. And I said, well, technically you shouldn't even be able to walk, so you should be excited. And I said, do it for those who can't, because there's people out there that would love to be able to do those things that are physically not able to do it. And so, I think everybody should kind of take that on. It's like, if you're physically capable, like don't take your health for granted, and don't take your physical potential for granted. Maybe exercise like for those who can't, and for yourself.
Well, it is easy to take things like that for granted. But it sounds like you're able to work with so many different clients to where it kind of reinforces that you need to take advantage of the time you have and the gifts that you have, because I just know life is just way too short.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm learning too over time that it's it's the longevity thing. So it's kind of like investing, like the energy that you put into it right now it's going to pay dividends over the years. And so, if you want to live into like your 70s and 80s, and if you want to be, real capable physically, like I see a lot of our older members in our gym that are real physically capable. Don't just do it for like the performance side and do it to like look good, but also invest the time and energy for your future. So that way you have good health and you have good disease prevention, or maybe if you do run into like a health issue, your body will be more resilient, or you'll be able to recover faster from it. But hopefully it'll result in like a good quality of life later on too.
Well, and aging can sneak up on you. And I think those are those moments where you realize, oh, wow, I'm not healing as fast as I used to. As someone who's in their early 40s, I think about, 5 years ago, and I'm like, boy, I don't recover the same way that I did. How do you approach recovery, and how do you approach training? Because it's, you can undertrain, you can overtrain and undertrain, and it's finding that sweet spot. How do you approach those things?
Yeah, I think like what you're referring to, where you're like, oh, I'm kind of maybe achy, or I'm not recovering as fast. You can kind of take like a wellness, like a full spectrum kind of approach at it, and go beyond like, lifting weights or going in and just working out and focusing on everything. So focusing on proper hydration, taking in proper fluids, like taking in the fluids that your body really needs and not just stuff that you want. And also on the nutrition side, it's like, instead of focusing on what you want or what's going to give you that like instant gratification, make you feel good, it's like maybe think more about, okay, what does my body actually need? It's like, do you live to eat, or do you eat to live? And then also focusing on like mobility, focusing on your aerobic health and like your cardiovascular health, and then focusing on, full body strength, doing compound movements. So taking like a full spectrum approach at it. And that's kind of how I try to mentor my clients, is to focus on all the different aspects.
Eating is awesome. Of course, there's just so many great things out there, but like anything, there's a fine line, finding the balance. How do you approach balance? Because that's probably, I feel like, in terms of a life skill, and we talk about that with our student population that we work with, is finding balance in all things. But sometimes it's easy to, go hard in one area and neglect another. What is your approach to balance?
A lot of people have like an all or nothing approach. They're like, oh, I don't have time to do 5 days a week, so I'm not going to do anything. But if you just focus on, it's like if you're doing all the right things, health and fitness wise, like 20% of the time, and then you go to like 70% or even 80%, it's still not perfect. Like it's not 100%, but going from like 20% proficiency to like 60, 70, 80% proficiency, that's going to yield a change. And so just making small changes and just incorporating little things and understanding that you're also going to fail along the way, like having some grace for yourself and knowing like, okay, I'm going to screw up. I know I'm going to go out to eat. Like, I know I'm probably going to miss a couple workouts. It's not going to be perfect, but more of the good, less of the bad. But just trying to do more of the good things over time consistently, I guess. But you have to make it like long term. You can't do it for, they say like Rome wasn't built overnight. It's like, it's going to take it takes months, for you to really like kind of create that lifestyle change and really transform. So you got to have some patience too.
Lots of opportunities to cultivate positivity.
Yeah.
Because you're coming into news, especially if you're working with a client that's never done or participated in this type of like maybe a particular type of training or just overall fitness in general. Coming up with ways to look at it positively cannot be, sometimes not easy.
You kind of like, when I take on a new client or when I'm helping somebody, I know there's a potential for failure or potential for someone maybe to like fizzle out and to lose focus. And so there's like a kind of a sense of urgency. It's like, okay, I need to make this person see a change and feel a benefit from this. I need to try and make it interesting for them. And that way they're going to kind of stick with it long term. Right? Because there's always like a probability of somebody, like I said, failing or fizzling out. So you do your best to keep people like engaged. basically.
Oh, there's a lot of lessons that can be derived from failure, though, or perceived failures. Because there's sometimes where I think a person will be like, oh, I failed. And they didn't necessarily fail. Maybe it just didn't go the way they looked at it. But how do you work with a person to help reframe that in a way that's more positive for them and will help them moving forward, so they'll stick to the task and the overall goal that you've set for them, or they've set for themselves that you're helping them reinforce?
Like a lot of people would just focus on the negatives, like, oh, I'm not seeing a change, or I'm not seeing the progress I want. It would kind of be like maybe with your students, where like with integrated interventions, where you're going to reinforce the positive things that have happened, and you're going to putting emphasis on the positive things that have happened. And maybe it's not like good enough to where they're seeing this crazy change, but it's not that they're failing, or it's not that it's not good, but maybe they're just not doing, like maybe they just need to make adjustments, or incorporate more of certain things into their regimen. And so I guess sitting down and doing like a positive evaluation of what they're doing and giving them guidance and saying, okay, well, you haven't completely failed because you've done this, this, and this, but you need to improve in these areas. If you just make it objective and you make it easy to understand, it's like, okay, we need to get extra days in the gym, or you need to get extra cardio in, or maybe you're like lacking in water intake, you're lacking in protein, or your diet is high glycemic, or you're drinking too much, or whatever it is. There's all these different things. I think being able to just evaluate it effectively and giving someone the tools to keep moving forward.
Well, Matt, thanks for taking the time to come in and talk with me today. It's been interesting to learn about you and about not only your life as a personal trainer, but some of the things that you have going on outside of that, but also that kind of relate back to what you do professionally.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. Yeah, like I said, I think that health and fitness is for everybody, and I think with integrated interventions, having good mental health and stimulating your body, getting your body to adapt to, movement and exercise can be very impactful on your day-to-day, and especially your mental health. So I think it's definitely a big piece, not only for people that are in your program, but for just the general population. And so, yeah, we'll just keep condoning people to start moving and eat healthier and put more emphasis on health and fitness for our society. Be good.
Well, and if people want to learn about you or get a hold of you, how do they go about doing that?
So I'm a co-owner of Snap Fitness in Hayden, so they can contact Snap Fitness, or they can contact me. Maybe we can put up like my phone number in a link or something and get a hold of me, and love to help you out. A
few different ways to get a hold of you, and we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. Yeah, I always enjoy the kind of the long form conversations that this provides us. So I appreciate you willing to step into something that you hadn't participated with us before.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. Thanks so much.
Make sure to like, subscribe, check us out on all our social media outlets. But for another Integrated Interventions podcast, I'm your host, Patrick Dundas. We'll see you next time.